Imagine boarding a train for a routine trip, only to realize that it's not stopping at any of the stations. As panic sets in and reality begins to blur, you discover that the train is hiding a nightmarish secret. This is the true story of my horrifying journey on a train that seemed to defy all logic and sanity. It started as a routine trip home after a long day at work. I boarded the late-night train, weary but relieved to be heading towards the comfort of my bed. Little did I know I was about to embark on a journey that would defy every ounce of reason and haunt me forever. The platform was eerily quiet, illuminated by the harsh, flickering lights of the station. I boarded the train, finding it sparsely populated. I settled into a seat by the window, hoping to doze off during the journey. The train lurched forward, and I closed my eyes, expecting to wake up at my destination. But when I opened them again, something was off. The train was still moving, but the familiar landmarks outside the window were missing. I glanced at the schedule above the door. The next stop was supposed to be in 20 minutes. It felt like hours had passed. The dim, artificial light inside the train flickered intermittently, casting eerie shadows on the walls. I decided to check if the conductor had any information. I walked down the narrow aisle, my footsteps echoing in the empty car. The silence was unsettling, broken only by the occasional creak of the train's metal frame. When I reached the conductor's compartment, I knocked softly on the door, but there was no response. I tried the handle. It was locked. Panic began to creep in as I walked back to my seat. I noticed that other passengers who had been there before were now missing. The train seemed abandoned. The lights flickered more intensely, and a chilling draft swept through the car. I tried calling my friends, but my phone had no signal. The train continued to speed through the darkness, the scenery outside a blur of blackness. I approached another passenger, a man with a disheveled appearance, who was staring blankly at the floor. "Excuse me," I said. "Do you know what's happening? Why aren't we stopping?" He looked up, his eyes hollow and vacant. "It never stops," he whispered. "Once you're on, you're trapped." A shiver ran down my spine. "What do you mean? Where are we going?" He didn't answer. Instead, he returned to his vacant stare. I felt a growing sense of dread. The train was still moving, but now it seemed to be picking up speed. The darkness outside the window was overwhelming, as if the train was cutting through a void. I made my way to the back of the train, hoping to find some answers. The further I went, the more unsettling the atmosphere became. The lights flickered violently, and a low, droning hum filled the air. At the very rear of the train, I found an emergency exit door. Desperation led me to try and open it, but it was stuck fast. As I turned away, a scream pierced the air. I rushed back toward the source of the sound, my heart pounding. I stumbled upon a young woman, her face contorted in terror as she clutched her chest. "Help me!" she cried. "Something's wrong. I can't breathe." Before I could reach her, she collapsed, her body becoming unnervingly still. I felt a surge of panic as the reality of our situation hit me. The train wasn't just not stopping, it was speeding up, heading into an abyss of darkness. Desperate to understand what was happening, I ventured back to the conductor's compartment. I banged on the door with all my might, yelling for help. After what felt like an eternity, the door creaked open slightly. I pushed it wider and was met with a sight that froze me in place. The compartment was empty except for the conductor's uniform, which was neatly hung in the closet. The room was eerily silent, save for the hum of the train and the rattling of the tracks. I noticed a small handwritten note on the desk. "There is no escape. The train is bound to the endless route. Once you board, you can never leave. Prepare for the journey of eternity." The words blurred before my eyes. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. This was no ordinary train. it was a nightmarish trap, a vessel that defied all known laws of physics and sanity. I stumbled back into the main car, my mind racing with fear. The train was now moving faster than ever, the speed making it difficult to stand. The lights flickered wildly, casting grotesque shadows that danced and twisted. The darkness outside was absolute, as if the train was suspended in a void. Time lost all meaning. Hours seemed like minutes, and minutes felt like days. The passengers who remained were silent, their faces marked with the same hollow fear that I now felt. We were all trapped in this never-ending journey, our lives consumed by the darkness outside and the terror within. I spent what felt like an eternity in that train, unable to escape or even understand what was happening. The only thing I knew for certain was that the train had become my prison, an unending nightmare from which there was no escape. When the train finally slowed to a stop, I was almost relieved, but as the doors creaked open, I was greeted not by a familiar station, but by an endless, dark expanse. The journey wasn't over, it had only just begun. I never boarded another train again. The memory of that endless, terrifying ride haunted me. Sometimes late at night, I find myself staring at the tracks, wondering if I'll ever hear the familiar sound of a train approaching. I hope I never do. And if you ever find yourself on a train with no end in sight, remember this: some journeys are meant to be avoided, because once you're on, you might never be able to leave.